The man who borrowed my future. My name is Hannah Foster. If someone had asked me 5 years ago what kind of life I wanted, my answer would have been simple. Peace. Not wealth. Not fame. Not excitement. Just peace. I grew up in a small coastal town where everyone knew one another. The ocean was never far away. On quiet evenings, I would sit on the beach and watch the waves roll toward shore, believing life would always remain predictable. I liked predictable. I worked at the town library. Books made sense. Stories had beginnings, endings, and reasons for everything in between. Real life was messier. At 26 years old, I lived alone in a small apartment above a bakery. Every morning I woke to the smell of fresh bread and cinnamon. It wasn't a glamorous life. But it was mine. My friends often asked why I never dated seriously. The truth was simple. I wasn't waiting for perfection. I was waiting for sincerity. Too many people seemed interested in appearances. I wanted honesty. Someone whose words matched their actions. Someone who meant what they said. I never imagined how difficult that would be to find. Everything changed on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. The library was nearly empty. Thunder rolled softly outside while rain tapped against the windows. I was organizing returned books when I noticed a man standing in the history section. He looked completely lost. After watching him stare at the same shelf for nearly 10 minutes, I finally walked over. "Can I help you find something?" The man looked at me. He had dark hair, kind eyes, and an embarrassed smile. "Actually, yes." "What are you looking for?" "I wish I knew." I laughed. "That's not very helpful." "I know." He held up a book. It was upside down. I couldn't stop myself from laughing. He laughed too. And somehow, that small moment felt surprisingly natural. "My name is Ethan," he said. "Hannah." "Nice to meet you, Hannah." That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. The next Friday, he came back. Then the Tuesday after that. Then Friday again. Soon I realized he always arrived at exactly 4 o'clock. Always. One afternoon I finally asked, "Do you actually read these books?" He looked offended. "Of course." "Really?" "No." I laughed. "So why do you keep coming here?" For a moment he seemed nervous. Then he smiled. "Because you work here." My face immediately turned warm. For the first time in years, someone made me feel seen. Not noticed. Seen. Weeks turned into months. We started meeting outside the library. Coffee became dinner. Dinner became long walks along the harbor. Long walks became conversations that lasted for hours. He told me about his childhood. His dreams. His fears. Or at least what I believed were his fears. One night, while we sat beside the ocean watching fishing boats return to shore, he asked, "Do you ever think about leaving this town?" I looked toward the water. "Sometimes." "Why don't you?" I smiled. "Because my entire life is here. And if something amazing existed somewhere else?" I looked at him. "Then maybe I'd be brave enough to find it." He squeezed my hand. Neither of us spoke after that. But something changed. The relationship deepened. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future. A real future. One with him in it. 6 months later, Ethan surprised me with life-changing news. We were eating dinner at a small restaurant overlooking the marina when he suddenly looked serious. "I got offered a position in Chicago." The words hung between us. Chicago. Almost 1,000 miles away. I stared at him. "Wow. That's all. What do you want me to say?" He laughed softly. I was hoping for slightly more excitement. I'm trying not to panic. His smile faded. Hannah. I knew that tone. Something else was coming. I want you to come with me. The restaurant suddenly felt too quiet. My heart began racing. What? Come with me. I stared at him. Leave my family. Leave my job. Leave everything familiar. It sounded impossible. Yet the thought of losing him felt worse. For weeks I struggled with the decision. My parents worried. My friends questioned everything. Only my best friend, Megan, seemed uncertain for a different reason. One evening she asked, "How much do you actually know about Ethan?" The question surprised me. "What do you mean?" She shrugged. "I don't know." That's reassuring. I'm serious. She looked uncomfortable. Sometimes he feels. Feels what? Distant. I immediately defended him. He's not. Megan sighed. Maybe I'm wrong. I wanted her to be wrong. More than anything. 3 months later, I moved to Chicago. At first, everything felt exciting. The city was enormous. Alive. Busy. Every street seemed to contain 100 stories. Ethan rented a beautiful apartment downtown. The view overlooked the skyline. At night, thousands of lights filled the horizon. I told myself this was the beginning of our future. For a while, I believed it. Then small cracks appeared. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious. Just little things. Phone calls he wouldn't answer in front of me. Business trips that seemed strangely frequent. Conversations that stopped whenever I entered a room. When I asked questions, he always smiled. You worry too much. Maybe I did. Maybe moving had made me insecure. That's what I told myself. Until the afternoon everything collapsed. I was searching for tax documents in his office. A simple task. Nothing unusual. Then I found a locked drawer. The key was inside his desk. I wasn't trying to snoop. At least that's what I told myself. When the drawer opened, I immediately saw a folder. And a photograph. A wedding photograph. My hands froze. A woman stood beside Ethan. Both wore wedding rings. Both were smiling. The date beneath the picture was 3 years old. 3 years. I felt cold. Terrifyingly cold. For nearly an hour I sat alone staring at the photograph. Waiting. Thinking. Praying there was some explanation. There wasn't. When Ethan came home that evening, he saw the photograph immediately. The color left his face. Neither of us spoke. The silence was unbearable. Finally I asked. Who is she? His shoulders dropped. As though he had been carrying this moment for years. My wife. Everything inside me shattered. Not broke. Shattered. What? My wife. I stared at him. Unable to breathe properly. You said you weren't married. I know. You lied. He closed his eyes. I know. The calmness in his voice felt like another betrayal. Every dream I had built suddenly collapsed. Every sacrifice. Every hope. Gone. I spent that night crying alone in a hotel room. The next morning, I left. Not because I was strong. Because staying would have destroyed me. Weeks passed. Then months. I rebuilt my life piece by piece. A temporary job became a permanent one. A rented room became a small apartment. The heartbreak slowly transformed into something else. Not healing. Not yet. Survival. Then one day, my phone rang. A woman introduced herself. My name is Claire. I nearly ended the call. Until she said 6 words. I'm Ethan's wife. Everything stopped. We met the next afternoon. Claire was not what I expected. She wasn't angry. She wasn't cruel. She looked exhausted. As though life had disappointed her too many times. For 3 hours we talked. And with every minute, another piece of the truth appeared. Ethan had lied to both of us. And to others before us. Promises. Secrets. Manipulation. A pattern repeated for years. Finally Claire said quietly. Do you know what his real talent is? What? He makes people believe they're the exception. The words hit me harder than anything else. Because they were true. I had believed I was special. Different. The one person he wouldn't hurt. And that belief had blinded me. Before we left, Claire said something I would never forget. Hannah, trusting someone isn't foolish. I looked at her. She smiled sadly. Trust is beautiful. The wrong person is the problem. For the first time in months, I felt something inside me loosen. Not forgiveness. Freedom. A year later, I hardly recognized my own life. I had a new career. New friends. New confidence. The woman who once followed someone else's future was gone. One autumn afternoon, I walked home carrying groceries. Outside a bookstore, a young man dropped an entire stack of books onto the sidewalk. Pages scattered everywhere. He groaned. Oh no. I laughed and bent down to help. As we gathered the books, he smiled. Thank you. His smile was warm. Simple. Honest. And for the first time in a very long time, I smiled back without fear. Because life had taught me something important. Some people enter your story to love you. Others enter your story to teach you. Ethan taught me pain. But he also taught me strength. He borrowed part of my future. But he never owned it. In the end, I took it back. And this time, the future belonged entirely to me.